Just kidding, because one thing is about neighboring, and I'm going to ask Chuck to be a welding volunteer for me this year, and he doesn't know that yet. But we have some kids in 4-H that want to take up the art of welding, and Chuck's a great resource. So with that, I'm going to invite, I think we have Dan Zadra with Colorado Parks and Wildlife is going to talk to us today about beavers and some control options. And I'll let Danny quickly introduce himself, and I'll load up his presentation.
Thanks, Eric. Like Eric said, I'm Danny Zadra. I'm a wildlife technician with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I did a lot of nuisance trapping over the years. So I've seen quite a few issues with beavers, and people have evolved in their ways of thinking about them and dealing with them, and I'm going to address some of those today, hopefully. Really thank Eric for having me here and putting this on. Just another example of the great asset that Eric is to our community.
Well, thank you. You don't have to do that. But I will tell all my speakers while I have you here, Danny, is that there's a pointer on here at the top. So you can point.
I brought my own. It's kind of like taking a cue stick to the bar.
There you go. And then there's a left and right button, so you can use that.
All right. Thanks. Okay, like I said, we're going to talk about beavers and some options we might have if we have issues with them. We're really lucky that we live in a place where there are beavers. They do some amazing things around here. It's even some of the state wildlife areas that I manage, that habitat is improved dramatically by the wetlands that beavers create and maintain, that are so vital to the overall wildlife habitat that we have around here. So I'll start out with a few beaver facts that, besides helping you out with Trivial Pursuit, might explain why they do what they do and how we can deal with it. So beavers are the largest rodent in North America. They'll weigh 40, 50, 60 pounds, even a little higher than that. They're second only to the capybara in the world, which can weigh up to 140 pounds. What makes a rodent a rodent? Anybody know? What's the main thing that makes a rodent a rodent? Those two big sets of incisors there. I'm going to set the microphone down for a little bit. So I have this beaver skull here, and as you can see, they have these two big incisors that they use for chewing, just like all rodents do. Beavers are just more dramatic, way bigger and everything. Thing with rodents is their teeth keep growing. They gotta always be gnawing on something, especially beavers. They gotta be gnawing. They don't hibernate, so their system doesn't shut down. So they have to be chewing on something all the time, or their teeth keep growing. And with beavers, if they don't chew, their teeth keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. It's pretty impressive. On the top jaw, same deal. It'll keep growing, 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 growing. Even penetrate their head. They're really a unique design. The outside curve is hard enamel, and the inside is softer. So actually, the more they're chewing, the sharper they make their teeth. So yeah, they always have to be chewing. They're strictly herbivores. They just eat plants. There's a myth that beavers eat build dams to catch fish to eat them. Beavers do not eat fish. It's amazing how long some of these myths persist. But yeah, beavers just eat plants, the cambium layer of trees that they chew. And next to man, beavers alter the environment the most in the whole world. Of all the animals, there's man and then there's beavers, and that's mostly due to their damming of waterways. In fact, the biggest dam in the world is up in Alberta, Canada. It can be seen from outer space. It's longer than the Hoover Dam. Quite impressive thing. You know, they say the only man-made structure that can be seen from outer space is the Great Wall of China. So beavers are right up there. The big deal with all this dam building with beavers is, you know, they're clumsy on the ground. You know, they're a stocky animal. They have short legs, webbed hind feet. You know, they're clumsy on the ground. They're very vulnerable to predation. Water is their deal. They're much more agile and comfortable in water. So they're always building dams to keep that water so they can carry on their everyday activities. One of the things when they're building dams, the thing that triggers dam building is the sound of water running. You know, they cannot stand the sound of water running. There's been cases, there was a researcher in Canada that took captive reared beavers that had never been out in the wild, had them in an enclosure, played the sound of running water. The beavers took sticks and debris and piled it on top of the speakers to stop that noise. Yeah, so they had that innate instinct to stop water running. And we can use that, I'll explain, in some of our controls of beaver damage. They mate for life. They have strong family units. Here in a couple months, May and June, the kits will be born. Usually around here, there's around 4. They'll stay along with the yearlings from last year, but the 2-year-olds will be dispersed. They get kicked out, and a lot of times those are the ones that cause the problems. They're out moving around and having to settle into places that might be marginal habitat for them. They have strong family ties, but they're very territorial. Other beavers coming in aren't very welcome. So when beavers get too eager and be beavers too enthusiastically around what we want, we're going to have problems. Probably the big deal is flooding. And with flooding, the main problem with that is plugging culverts. And that's just because culverts are moving a large volume of water through a narrow place. Makes it real easy. The sides make it easy for the material to be bridged across, and easy to plug up. When the water builds up, starts washing over the road, can wash the road out, the culverts out. You have typical flood damage. That water's going to back up, go into low places like maybe a crawl space or stuff like that too, fields. And then what a lot of people don't consider is sometimes that water can back up if your well isn't quite up to specs. A lot of that water can run in and contaminate your well. Another thing they do is chew trees down. You know, trees that you might have purposely planted. Deciduous trees is what they love. Aspens, probably their favorite. Cottonwoods, alders. There's some ornamental species that are like candy to them. I think like Chinese crabapple, they go crazy for those. So yeah, you'll want to protect those. Besides losing your trees, just when the tree falls over, if it's a big tree in the wrong spot, I've seen damage where they've fallen on houses, on vehicles, cross power lines. So yeah, we'll want to talk about protecting our trees from getting chewed. Ditches, that's as rural landowners, good chance that you're going to have some issues with beavers in your ditch. Besides, just shutting off the water, wasting time during our precious irrigation season. Probably the big thing is blowing out ditch banks. A lot of these ditches convey water long distances across open hillsides. A beaver gets in there, plugs it up, the water starts coming over the ditch bank, washes it out, and hugely expensive repairs, sometimes marginal repairs just to get through the season. And it's amazing how quick it can happen. So any new irrigators out there, be vigilant in your patrols of your ditches, because they can do a lot of things in a short amount of time. So we have some control options. Probably the simplest thing, on culverts is a simple culvert grate. Here's a good welding project for you, either for Chuck or to do yourself. It's a simple grate, it goes across the front of a culvert. The main thing it does is keeps that material out of the culvert. It just makes it easier to access, to clean out. But yeah, keeps the material out of the culvert, keeps you from having to go in the culvert, which is no little thing. Everybody that's crawled in a culvert to clean it out, it's not the most pleasant experience. And taking a ride out of a culvert when the dam comes loose is there's just not a lot to hang on to inside of a culvert. So they require frequent cleaning, probably like every day. One thing that's come up is Beaver Deceiver. It's actually a trademark term, but that a guy in Maine came up with. But yeah, when you get a clever name like Beaver Deceiver, you better expect it's going to be used quite a bit. So what it does, this fence, and have a student here from the college, Malcolm, has done a lot of work in promoting these kind of options for beavers, is a Beaver Deceiver type of fence that goes in the culvert. As you can see here, this one's a trapezoidal thing with the culvert down here in the narrow end. Hog panels or woven wire around that. The beavers plug, build dam up against that, but the water keeps coming over. The culvert's free to flow. Works quite well. You can even, quick and dirty one, maybe just take a hog panel or a cattle panel and make a big hoop around the culvert to protect it. Kind of do the same thing, maybe not quite as effective. How did we live before welded hog panels and cattle panels, But yeah, so Beaver Deceiver, far less maintenance, and they're very effective. Another type of thing, and there's tons of options on these. There's just another type, something that's going to fool a beaver. Pond levelers, what these are, some type of perforated pipe, or a pipe with a screen that's going to not get plugged to convey that water through the dam in where that sound isn't going to trigger a damming thing. Yeah, they take considerably more work to construct, but it's definitely a long-term and effective way of dealing with some beaver issues. I think Malcolm's worked even with Gunnison County is trying to go to a lot of these type of things, especially like the Beaver Deceivers, to reduce their maintenance on culverts and roads that are getting washed out. Your trees, wire tubes, probably the best. You know, I see a lot of times people come out and they have a little nibble or something on their tree, so they wrap it in chicken wire. If you're going to rely on chicken wire to protect your trees, I guarantee you're going to come out and you're going to have a beaver stump wrapped in chicken wire. You know, think about it, you're dealing with a wad, a 50-pound knot of muscle and teeth, you know, so you're going to want something pretty substantial. So wire mesh, again, woven wire fencing, probably 3 to 4 feet tall, because they can be that tall. We want to have it away from the tree trunk so they can't stick their nose through and damage the tree. And then we'll stake them down with some steel posts or rebar. If you have a big area, maybe consider some fencing or electric fencing. You know, electric fence, and after a few inches off the ground is going to be pretty effective in keeping beavers out of that. Painting the trees, I personally have never done this. I see it a lot. There's a lot of information on it. You mix the paint with some masonry sand. The idea is that when they're chewing on it, that sand's rubbing on their teeth and their gums. I don't know. I've seen beavers chew through some pretty nasty stuff. So if you're serious about protecting your trees, I don't know if I'd go with the paint. You know, the selling point is that the paint can be matched to the color of the tree, and it's not as visible if any of you worry about such matters. I'd definitely stick with the wire mesh tubes for protecting trees. Ditches are a whole nother thing. You know, if you have a ditch in a place where you can maybe remove a lot of the woody vegetation around there, like this ditch here, beaver wouldn't like that. There's nothing there for them to build a dam with. They'd have to carry that stuff quite a ways. I know it's not possible in a lot of places. You know, we want to keep a lot of that vegetation to stabilize the ditch banks and everything. But in places, yeah, if you can remove some of that, they prefer, you know, jungly, overgrown ditches way more than open ones. You can try pulling the dams a few times, especially if the source of that material is a ways away. You know, it doesn't work all the time, but it works often enough to try it. You know, pull the dam a few times. Sometimes they say heck with it and they'll move to a better place. So something to try. Pull the dam a few times and see what happens. Maybe they'll leave and you'll salvage the rest of your irrigation season. The pond levelers and stuff are not really effective for a ditch like this because they can just go above it or below it. And a lot of them might not pass as much water as you need for your irrigation purposes. Controlling beavers in a ditch may require trapping or shooting. So, in Colorado, landowners are well within your rights to kill beavers that are damaging your property. Used to be, beavers showed up, everybody had beaver traps or knew somebody that did. In 1996, Amendment 14 was passed and it banned the use of those kind of traps. There are exemptions to that trapping ban. You can come into the Colorado Parks and Wildlife and talk to the people, talk to the district officer, the area manager there, and see. You might be able to get a 30-day exemption and use those other types of traps, but it has to be on private property and agricultural damage. Chewing trees down does not qualify as agricultural damage. This law was set up to protect the ditches. So, yeah, if there's ditch damage, flooding of fields, that qualifies, but not just chewing trees down. Live traps can be used and are used quite a bit. And then beavers are considered a fur bearer, managed by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. There is a beaver season on public lands. That's October through April. So you can go out and trap or shoot beavers in that time period, but you have to have the valid license, which is either the small game or a fur bearer's license. A couple of issues with trapping and shooting. You know, shooting, having grief with your deal, Eric, but you know, that's usually what you see with a beaver. It's a very small target, often in low light conditions. Bad thing is it's often, you know, you're shooting at water, which is never a good thing because of the ricochet factor. So if you're shooting beavers to control them, you know, just be extra cautious. These are beaver live traps. As you can see, they're different than the most, you know, common live traps like have a heart, cage traps that you would use to catch raccoons or skunks in. These are Hancock type traps. It's like a suitcase made out of chain link. They're very effective, but they're big, awkward, heavy, expensive. One of those costs about $400. They can be dangerous. I remember years ago, the old ones, the literature that came with them, it recommended wearing a hockey mask or a football helmet when you were setting them, because the strings are powerful and everything's set up and you're bent over, so yeah, your head, you can take a mashing on your noggin. So, and the thing is, with doing anything with beavers, you're doing this stuff next to probably cold, deep water, you know, so if you're taking an arm or something out of commission and falling in, it can turn into a bad situation. So yeah, the Hancock traps, and that's what I use and other trappers use, especially for transplanting. Everybody always talks about this. I don't want them killed. I don't want the beaver killed. Just let's move it someplace. And it's great. You know, I love when I can take a beaver, like from town here, one of these displaced 2-year-olds that's going to have a miserable existence, and I can take it and move it into a place in the wilderness, into good beaver habitat. It's a really good feeling when I turn that beaver loose and know he's going to have a good life after that. But it just doesn't happen. You don't just catch a beaver, throw it in a truck, and drive off in the woods and sploosh, throw it in a creek or a pond. There's a lot of requirements that go into that. First off, it's illegal for you to move a beaver onto public lands. Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the land management agencies, the BLM or Forest Service, you know, we might have places, and we do. There's places, some drainages around where tularemia, a disease, has gone through and wiped out the beavers. So, you know, some of these we can reestablish. There's places, you know, in these drought years that only the places where beaver ponds were, the fish have survived. You know, the cutthroats in some drainages. So we want to maintain those populations. So we have some suitable spots for that. Timing is really important to transplanting beavers. You know, in the spring you can catch them, but I always worry about orphaning dependent young. You know, if I catch a female, and they're hard to sex, nursing females are pretty obvious, but you catch a female, move her off, and then if she's got young there, you know, that they're going to have a hard time, even if you're able to catch them later and move them to where you move that female. Pretty good chance they're not going to meet up again. Too late in the year, you know, beavers, they have a ton of work to do in the fall to get through winter. They have to store up probably 6 months worth of food. They have to build a dam to raise the water enough that they can store the food that they can get to under the ice. build a lodge or dig a den. So yeah, they have a ton of work to do. So we can't be moving them out. The thing with transplanting is, you know, if it's not done right, it can be way more cruel than just shooting one. So we want to make sure we do it right. And then dumping a beaver in an occupied territory, that's horrible. You know, they don't get along. It's not fair to the transplanted beaver. It's not fair to the resident beaver to do that. So yeah, we need to have the right place to do it. And we don't want to give our problem to somebody else. You know, take a beaver and dump it in where it's going to be plugging up culverts, washing roads out on the national forest or BLM or, you know, on the neighbors, causing problems there. So yeah, just be very thoughtful in your transplanting of beavers. And like I said, you have to go through Parks and Wildlife to do it anyway. So to do it legally. So let us know. And with that, I'll take any questions right now or wait till the group's done. Shane.
Are you guys obligated if the landowner comes and says, we want these beavers out of the way, we're not gonna do nothing, are you guys obligated to tend to that problem?
No, sir. Yeah, we'll refer you to somebody that can, or yeah, explain to you the options that you can do. But yeah, we don't deal with a lot of beaver issues. The main thing I do it is in a public safety type situation. Anything else? All right.